United Nations says there are more than 25,000 around the world who have joined terrorist networks in other countries. The foreign fighter threat is exposing critical gaps in information sharing between different countries. The international police criminal organization INTERPOL is trying to help. CCTV's Jessica Stone visited their command center here in Washington for some insight.
We have brothers from Bangladesh, from Iraq, from Cambodia, Australia, UK. Nothing has gathered us except to make Allah Azza wa Jalla with the highest.
Terror group ISIL's brutal advance in Iraq and Syria has relied on thousands of foreign fighters, recruiting deep into homes around the world. In the first week of April alone, a Philadelphia television station reports an American mom is charged with trying to join ISIL in Syria. A 27-year-old Dutch woman is picked up in Antalya, Turkey, accused of trying to do the same. And the independent newspaper in the UK reports 9 British men, women, and children were stopped trying to get to Syria. The United Nations now estimates more than 25,000 people from 100 nations have joined global militant groups, including ISIL.
How significant is the effort that Interpol is part of to catch these foreign fighters before they get to the battleground?
2 years ago, there maybe was a dozen countries that were interested in sharing information on foreign terrorist fighters. And now, only 2 years later, there's well over 40. Everyone globally sees the concern that foreign terrorist fighters pose.
Jeff Shank is the deputy director of Interpol Washington, a member of Interpol's foreign terrorist fighter prevention effort. He says in the 2 years since the program launched, those 40 nations have generated Interpol files on 1,700 people suspected of trying to support or join terrorist groups.
Nations are required to prevent and suppress the recruiting, organizing, transporting, or equipping of foreign terrorist fighters.
When world leaders voted at the United Nations last September, they gave nations more power to prevent the flow of foreign fighters by using Interpol's UN special notice to detain them. But the task of managing the flow of information is overwhelming. At this Washington, D.C. command center, analysts sift through more than 38,000 pieces of information a month on all kinds of transnational crime, including attempts by foreign fighters to travel abroad.
So somebody in France ascertains there's a person coming into the United States or attempting to, that's a threat.
Yes,
and comes through this.
Any message that has any sort of counterterrorism annotation to it is immediately processed and then through our automated system is sent to the border control checkpoints.
To access the Interpol database, member nations must supply vetted police information on foreign fighter suspects.
It's important that the information is 100% verified and credible, and that it contains as many identifiers as possible, whether that's biographical, nominal data, or biometric data, or a photo. All of that's important.
Shank admits the program does face skepticism from some national police chiefs who believe their country has no foreign fighter threat. To them, Shank says, you won't discover foreign fighters unless you look for them.
Are they traveling on a stolen lost travel document? Who's the only global entity that has a stolen lost travel document database? Interpol. The fact that they're not being checked against that database, that's what needs to be rectified. How do you secure your borders against drug trafficking? If you're securing it against drug trafficking, you can secure it against the transiting foreign terrorist fighters.
And when national police forces do join the network, Shank says, he has seen near immediate results, as in the case of Bulgaria, who joined last summer.
It wasn't 4 or 5 months later, in December of last year, that because of that participation in the Interpol Foreign Terrorist Fighter Working Group, and because they had access to the information contained in the analytical files, that the Bulgarian border authorities were able to interdict 3 potential jihadists or terrorists trying or attempting to transit their country from Bulgaria into Turkey.
That was Jessica Stone reporting.